If you're familiar with Media Composer, you know it's built for speed, precision, and reliability in professional post-production. But what really elevates the editing experience is how customizable and connected it can become when we start integrating extensions. Extensions allow developers and you to bring external tools, services, and workflows directly into the Media Composer interface. These extensions aren't just add-ons. They're driving real efficiency gains, reducing friction between departments, and enabling faster decision-making across production and post. They let editors access AI-driven features, asset management systems, review and approval tools, and so much more, without ever leaving Media Composer. Whether you're an editor, an assistant, a technical director, or a developer looking to integrate your own tools, this session should give you a clear understanding of the possibilities and maybe even spark a few ideas for your own workflows. So let's jump in and take a closer look at how Quickture has created an Avid Media Composer extension to help you create smarter, faster, and more connected post-production environments. I'd like to introduce Irad Eyal, CEO of Quickture, who's going to take you through the application and how amazing it will actually take your workflow and transcription and so much more to the next level.
Thank you. I'm Irad. I'm the CEO of Quickture. I come from the world of reality TV. I was a reality TV producer for 25 years, worked on lots of shows like Housewives of Atlanta, Southern Charm on Bravo, Floor is Lava on Netflix. And one of the key factors of reality shows is we find our story in the edit. So you get into your edit, you've probably shot 100 to 200 hours of footage to make an hour-long episode. And now as an editor, story producer, assistant editor, your job is to figure out, well, what is the actual story? And so Quickture was built to help with that. We're focused on unscripted content, although people are using it for scripted shows to turn around promos very quickly, things like that. In the unscripted world, we're working with reality TV, news, sports, documentary, corporate videos, and helping people find their story very quickly. So this is Quickture right here. It's an embedded panel right in Media Composer. The first thing that you'll see when you bring in footage is a very detailed summary of what you have in the material. So in this case, I brought in a finished episode of Survivor Australia. And so you can see we have a description broken down into acts, very detailed information about the characters and what they're doing. And we even have a breakdown of the characters and their story arcs in this episode as well. So if you were doing a raw footage of an interview or of a scene, you would have a very detailed breakdown of everything that's in there. And then we give you a transcript. The transcript, especially in unscripted content, is one of the most important things. If we have an accurate transcript, we could figure out what our story is, because often our story is coming from the dialogue. So we worked really hard to give you the most accurate transcription around, and also identify the characters very accurately. And we'll also give you a transcript broken down into story beats. So all of the lines are in here, but I can see what happened in all of these different elements of this edited piece. And we're also grading those story beats. So our default grades are things like emotion, humor, spiciness, story value, but you can also create custom beats. So if you're working on a cooking show, for example, you could grade your story on French culinary technique or something like that.
Now, can I ask, does spiciness have to do with cooking, or what's...
Well, if you work in reality TV, you'd know what spiciness is. But no, in this case, it is the spicy romantic content that America loves. And over here, we have our visual transcript. So we're also doing a very detailed, accurate visual analysis of the material. This is a traditional log format with 3 columns for time code, a column for the visuals, and a column for the dialogue. And you can see we get very accurate descriptions here. So for example, here's an aerial pan shot, slowly revealing a long stretch of tropical coastline. Let's jump to that and play it now.
Great heart-stopping Caesar.
I wish I was there, but not on Survivor. So we give you these very accurate descriptions. We have people that are using this on a very popular survival show, for example, where they put people out in the woods and film them with fixed rig cameras. Those cameras are running 24/7, and they're just sort of placed around the woods. And it takes many, many hours and weeks to log that footage. And you have to accurately log it because you need to capture the moment, when someone manages to finally start their fire, or when they get attacked by some animal. Even if that happens off camera, you need to scrub through that footage and log it. Quickture is able to do that in minutes instead of weeks. And then we also allow you to search through the material. So we have a very accurate visual search here. I can search on the level of a sequence, a bin, or a project. In this case, I searched for close-ups of the voting. Here's some voting. Well, maybe I didn't find it. Let's try this again. Let's do a live search right here on this episode. And I'm going to look for, paper with people's names on it. Those are the ballots that they use during the elimination ceremony. We'll see how fast this comes back. We are using Google embeddings too for our visual search in this case. Very accurate, very powerful visual embeddings. We know that they're working very closely with Avid as well. And what you get with these visual embeddings is not only can we find still frames like this, here's our shot of Frankie being voted off the island, we can also look for searching for video moments. So I could search for a dolly shot that goes from left to right on an exterior of a house, things like that takes place over time. We can search for those as well. And then we get into the actual editing. So Quickture can do a few different edit modes. The simplest, the most sort of blunt instrument is an auto edit, where Quickture is going to create whatever it thinks is, the quote unquote best version of an edit at a certain time. Now, our goal here is really to get you to a rough assembly or a rough cut. So we are going to try to find the story elements that are relevant, and then you'll be able to continue from there. But the auto edit is really powerful. We worked with ITV on Love Island. Love Island does, 600 casting tapes just to find the 30 singles that are going to be on the show. And what they were able to do was take those hour-long interviews that they did with each potential cast person, cut them down to a 10-minute interview with Quickture, and then the editors and story producers would bring that down to sort of a 2 or 3 minute edit, which was ultimately what was used in the casting process. So we were able to basically double their production and allow them to go through a much larger casting pool. In the guided edit, I can take complete control of the edit. So here I could paste in a paper edit and ask Quickture to assemble it. I could do a clip poll and say, hey, can you find me the funniest parts or the most emotional parts, or the part where Frankie, betrays someone, things like that. I can also have a discussion with Quickture. So this functions a lot like ChatGPT, except it has an understanding and a knowledge of everything in your Avid project. So it knows what's in the footage, it knows what's in your sequence, and now we can have a conversation. So I could say something like, make an outline for a 30-second promo that doesn't reveal the eliminations. Give it some guidance like that. So now Quickture is going to look at what's in this episode of Survivor. It's going to propose an edit for me. So it's giving me a section here about the premise of the show. It's selected some suggested lines that it maybe wants to pull. I can go back and forth and revise that with Quickture and try to adjust it. Or if I like it, I could just say, great, edit that, switch to edit mode, hit go, and Quickture will create an assembly of that 30-second promo for me. So this is, again, a really powerful tool when you're working with one episode, but even better if you're trying to maybe make a super tease for the whole season. I could point Quickture at all 15 episodes of the season, and I could say, hey, make a super tease again that doesn't, focus on the eliminations, or that, has great moments with a certain character that we want to highlight, and Quickture will assemble that for me. We keep track of all of the edits that are going on over here, so Quickture will alert me when that edit is complete. Meanwhile, I can go work on something else.
I think what's great is a lot of people are realizing, wow, I wish I had this now, how much time this could save me. So I think it's amazing the work that's being done.
Yeah, we had a moment with a natural history producer who spends years working on documentaries about tigers, a tiger family, and all of their behavior. And his job was to basically label every, tag every section of clips of, this is the mother tiger, she's walking through the forest, she's lying down, she's swimming, she's eating, all of that, she's licking the baby, all that kind of stuff. Quickture is able to identify that and help tag it very, very quickly. And he was very, very excited, but also, questioning his past decisions.
Sure.
And saw what we could do. I wanted to share some new tools that we have that we're premiering at NAB right now. So while that's edit is going, I'll show you this episode of the Graham Norton Show. So we have a talk show. We have a lot of different celebrities here, and we've analyzed that the way I demoed before. But in the guided edit, I can also now harness new tools. Quickture is now a fully agentic AI tool, meaning that it has sort of a brain that can harness other tools that we provided. One of the tools that we gave it is the ability to create graphics. So in this case, I said, make an animated title card for this episode of the Graham Norton Show that has a Matrix look and feel because Keanu Reeves is a guest here. List all the celebs in the title card. And right here in the chat, Quickture created 3 different versions of a potential graphic. Here's one of them. Here's another one.
I see smiles in the audience.
And here's our final one. I think the final one wasn't that great or didn't work out, but 2 out of 3 isn't bad. I can continue to revise these down here if I wanted to change certain things, make it a different color or something like that. If I like it, I could say, great, import it. We're going to import it at the resolution and the frame rate of this sequence with an alpha channel, and you can just drop that right in. So this is a really fast way to get some graphics in. I went back and said, great, make a lower third for Keanu that has the look and feel of graphic number 2. And these are the options it gave me here.
Now, you said that you put in to list the guests. How does it know? I know that there's a selection on the guests that it senses from the episode, correct?
Yeah, so this is where that power of AI and agentic tooling comes into place. We can give it all of the information about what's in the sequence. It knows who the characters are. It has a visual sense of what's in there, all of the information that we use to create that visual transcript, but now it can apply it to making a graphic. And we can use that in other ways as well. So I could say, look at this basketball game. I need a sidebar with the scores, at a certain time in the game or something like that. It would be able to pull that information from the game and create a graphic on the fly.
Wow.
So that is our graphic functionality. The other thing I can show you here, I made another one here. I said make a different one that's more colorful and funny. No matrix theme. And so you really can create all different stuff. You can see the fonts are a little messed up here, so I would want to go and do another round. But it is just a really fun way to brainstorm and try out different visuals. The other tool that we've added to Quickture is the ability to accept and create documents. So in that same guided edit, let me show you here. I have a compliance document. So the networks generate these documents. They have all the guidelines for what you're allowed to put in a show and what you're not allowed to put in the show. In this case, it's focusing on competition and contest programs, alcohol and drugs, profanity, all that kind of stuff. And when we deliver a show to the network, we're required to provide a compliance report. That's among all the other deliverables that you have, maybe music cue sheets, archival footage reports, all that sort of stuff. And so what I wanted to do was use Quickture to help me generate that. So what I did is I came in here to my discussion mode. I'll just start from the beginning. And I attached that compliance document. So now Quickture, again, has access to everything that's in my sequence, everything that's in my project, and also this compliance guideline report. And now I could say, review this episode and make a compliance report based on the attached S&P guidelines. Make it a Word document. So Quickture is going to look at this episode, look at what's in the footage, look at what's in the sequence. In this case, the sequence is pretty simple, just a flat version of this episode, and generate a report for me based on that compliance document. It should come back in a couple of seconds here. So super powerful, takes a very sort of, often frustrating thing that you have to do at the end of delivery and can turn it around really quickly. And we have a lot of users that are very excited to use this for things like music cue sheets and that sort of stuff. Here's my compliance report. Let's see how this episode did. So my compliance report for Survivor Season 9, Episode 2. Uh-oh, competition and contest programs requires attention. I need to make sure that the tug of war competition, followed all of those guidelines, and it flags some compliance issues here. We have some minor issues with language and dialogue. Someone said, holy hell. So anyway, it gives you that report very quickly. You can go through, confirm it's all ready, and then send it off with your deliverables. So our goal is really to empower the post-production team to get to that rough cut, that rough assembly very quickly, get through the boring parts or the arduous parts of post-production, and try to get to the more creative parts as fast as they can.
There's some other really great functionality in there. I know that you can do an auto edit, but I love the fact that you can give it a time. It does show you sort of a span of what's editable. You can choose. I know when I do a lot of interviews with people, I don't want to be part of the conversation, but I can just turn off my part of the conversation, leave only who I've interviewed, and then choose from that. It actually shows you a sort of a span of editable time that you can say, this is 10 minutes of real editable footage from the interviewee. Give me 5 minutes of a cut down based on a certain topic that was listed as well.
Yeah. It's a very fast way to be able to explore your footage. One of the challenges that I always faced in production was you'll go down a certain road on an edit, on a reality show or something like that. You spend 4 weeks working out a scene. You present it to the network, and for whatever reason, they don't like that scene. They want to try a different path. And the challenge is now you have to go back to square one. You have to go back, start assembling the pieces of a brand new part of your footage. And so we would often push back against that, even if, by the way, if the note was right, because there's no more budget, perhaps, there's no more schedule. But with Quickture, you can try that out, try out a bunch of different paths, get to that rough assembly very quickly, and decide the path that you want to sort of focus your attention on. The last tool that I wanted to share here is the ability to create Temp VO. So another thing that always happens in production is you need to slug in some line, either of narration or of a certain character or something like that. Your record session isn't happening for a while, but you still need to slug that in so that you can continue your edit. So I'll go to this episode of the Graham Norton Show, and we can very quickly create a Temp VO. I'll go into my guided edit here. Actually, let's go to a different one. Who do we want? Hugh Jackman? Yeah, let's do this. So here I have a bunch of my X-Men in this episode. I could go into my guided edit and I can say, make a temp VO of Patrick Stewart saying full warp speed ahead. Something like that. So a lot of editors are currently using solutions like 11 Labs. It's fantastic. What we wanted to do was basically speed up the process there. So instead of having to go off to another website, generate a voice, type in your stuff, generate the VO, download it, bring it in, we're having that all take place right within the panel in Media Composer. My VO is going to appear in the bin when it's ready. I could be working on something else meanwhile, and then I can slug that in very quickly. The other thing I would mention is we are working closely with all of our production companies and network partners to make sure that if I am cloning Patrick Stewart's voice, we have the right permissions for that. We're really marketing this or promoting it as a temp VO tool that will help you get through your edits quicker. And then when you go and you do your record session, you have all the lines that you need there.
And I'll just emphasize again just what Irad said, that he didn't have to leave Media Composer. The whole idea of these extensions and the power of Quickture is that everything is done right here. You have all of your editing tools, and whenever you need to access this to do any of it, you just go to the extensions menu up top, select Quickture, and perform any of these functions.
Here we go. So here's Patrick Stewart's voice. Let's see if that worked.
Okay. Full warp speed ahead.
I don't know if you guys heard that.
I heard that. Did you hear that?
Full warp speed ahead.
So we did our little clone of Patrick Stewart, and I'm able to slug that in where I need to. I can also paste in an entire script. It will generate all of that audio, and I could cut it up and drop it in there. So again, a really quick tool for prototyping, trying stuff out, and getting off to that rough cut quickly.
Now, Quickture is a relatively new company. correct? I mean, you just started, and we highlighted them last year, I think, for the first time on stage here at NAB.
That's right. So we launched a couple of years ago. We did present last year, but we made a lot of progress and found a lot of adoption in the last year. We're currently working with Paramount, A&E Networks, BBC, ITV, a lot of networks and production companies around the world. Why that's important for you guys, first of all, if you work for those companies, we're excited to be working with you. And if you work for those companies in a production capacity or to deliver content, we are approved by all those places. Obviously, security is very, very important when you're working with IP and pre-release content. And so we are SOC 2, Type 2 certified, TPN certified, and working within those systems to make sure that none of the IP gets released.
No, absolutely. But a lot of great developments that we've seen. I mean, a lot of this is new. I haven't even tried the VO part yet, so I'll have fun playing
Yeah,
with that.
a lot of fun with that.
I mean, how are things looking for the future? Any stuff
So
you can-
now that we have our fully agentic functionality in there, we're going to continue to add tools. And what that means is that right now you can create graphics or temp VO and put it in. But what we'd like to do is automate some of that process as well. So I could say, hey, here's a 2-hour scene. I need you to take me down to a 20-minute rough cut. Every time a character first appears in the scene, drop a lower third in there for them. And let's start off with a line from our narrator, explaining the context of this scene. And Quickture will be able to assemble all of those pieces together. So every time you can add another tool, it exponentially increases the opportunities there.
Great.
So what I would suggest, if you guys want to try it out, please head to our website, quickture.com. We have a free trial. You can have unlimited usage, try it out on your projects, and we're excited to hear how it helps you with your production.